Good afternoon, street beaters, and good afternoon, all listeners to Star Radio. I believe if I put this anyway, we are live from the Kingstown Port project, the new proposed site of the Kingstown Port project. Sion Marshall there, Bling is here, and we are joined by the assistant project manager for the port project. Now we'll get into the gentleman discussion with him a little while from now. But just to set the background, so we're here, we're right on site. We're right on site. We barely missed the activities of some of the excavators that were there. I don't know if some boats went out, but those are the boats that dump in the sand. I don't know if we'll be that lucky. Let's keep laughing. But we are here to chat a little bit with Mr. Douglas, who is the deputy the assistant project manager, and we'll be chatting a little bit about what is, the current status of the project, where things are, and where things will go eventually. Now, there has been a lot of discussion, rightfully so, public discussion. This is a major project in St. Vincent and so there's a lot of discussion that's going on, rightfully so. And so you expect people have questions, and individuals may even have comments, and that's fine. And so we decided that we are going to get to the experts, get to the professionals who would give us the information that we need. We can't leave this thing to guesswork, because it is too important a project to leave things to guesswork and to individuals who may not necessarily know what they're talking about. Now, where we're sitting here, we are sitting at what used to be the exit for Tokyo. Leeward bus terminal, Leeward Tokyo, right? So that's where we're sitting. A couple of weeks, months ago, this was the road. I could show you that exactly. That would have been the road right there. And buses would be coming out at the gate here and coming around on the road going down. Since the start of the project, of course, that is no longer so. The buses exit the same way they enter the terminal, and they move towards the leeward side. So a lot of work has happened. If you remember, and if you pan a little bit over there, if you remember, you would know that once you came out the road, there was a big wall here where the vendors used to sell and so forth. And beyond the wall, you had some big boulders. That's what used to be. Now, what you have is a bit of a beach. We have a bit of a beach right here. So, if you weren't paying attention, you may miss the transformation that has occurred so far. Right here, in front of your eyes. So that's why we're here, to show you a bit of the transformation that has occurred so far. It's continuing to occur, but of course discuss the bigger issue and the bigger picture of the port project. So let me say good afternoon to Linsky and welcome him to Star Street Beat. Linsky, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mr. Marshall. Thank you for having me on Star Street Beats. Good afternoon to the audience of the Star Street Beat program, and welcome to the first live radio broadcast from the Port Modernization Project worksite. Sion, you had that privilege.
And I appreciate that.
Yes.
I was also the individual who chaired the launch of the project. So I've been here from the inception, Linsky, and so I'm really happy to be a part of all this. And more than anything else, I'm happy to be a part of the information dissemination.
Yes.
Because I think it's critical.
Yes.
Something as significant as this, something as essential to our development thrust going forward,
yes,
requires that the information be out there in the public domain.
For sure.
So broadly speaking, generally speaking, are you satisfied so far with the implementation of the project so far?
We've been having a very smooth implementation of the port modernization project. I'll illustrate it by going back to an event that occurred last year in Parliament, where the government had to take back a special warrant. So I think it's the equivalent of about $76 million right, EC dollars, to add to the payments to be able to pay for the volume of work that we executed in 2022, which was more than what was budgeted for.
Yes,
Right,
I remember that.
the project is going to schedule, not without some challenges, but for most part we're on schedule, and 2025 May is still our projected deadline for completion of works on the port project through contractor Aecon.
All right. Now, for those of you who are listening, we have some entertainment in the background.
Yes.
We apologize for that because it didn't matter where we set up. You were going to have some sort of sound effect, some sort of ambient noise. That's we're on the street, so I'm sorry, but we can't do nothing to that. So you might hear some of that, but pay attention. You heard the information coming from Linsky this afternoon. So far, Linsky, smooth transition. Now we go back to the preparatory work, and we go way back to the building of those homes.
Yes.
First of all, the relocation of
Yes,
of,
yes.
of the individuals who live there, the construction of homes, the work that was done for the fisher folk. Has all of that been resolved, especially with the fisher folk and
Yes,
so forth?
that process of resettlement, relocation, compensation has been closed by our project, right? It is now for the different entities of state, which is available for all Vincentians to assist as best as they can those who may require that sort of social safety. But our resettlement program was implemented smoothly. Um, as you rightly said, we would have resettled the residents who lived on the beachfront at Rose Place. We would have compensated fisher folk. We would have compensated the business operators and so on. Recently, we would have done an independent monitoring and evaluation review of that exercise, and the feedback was primarily as it relates to the project in that regard. We've satisfied that mandate. We've allowed for the project affected persons to be in a much better off condition than they were before. And in cases where they may not see that they were made better off, they definitely, the level of their ability to make their livelihood, to continue their livelihood activity was not in any way made worse. Right? Yes.
So there was an independent review, and overall, what were the findings of that review?
The independent consultant came in, and her name is Christine Scott. She came in. She would have done interviews, questionnaires with the project affected stakeholders. We held meetings at our office with the representatives from the small businesses that would have been impacted in Rose Place. And overall, the commendations from the project affected persons is positive. There are challenges in some quarters, right? But as expected, life always has some issues.
Absolutely.
But when you look at the baseline from where these individuals were to where the project placed them, there was not a disadvantage that was realized as a result of that resettlement.
So,
Obviously, there would have been some need for readjusting and so on. And the government did an excellent job in blending support to immediate issues
1 2 1 2 1 2. Maybe that was it. It switched back. 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2. All right, we good. All right, so we good now. All right.
So we're back again,
We're back
Sion?
again, yes.
Okay.
So we were talking about what dredging was.
Yes.
Thank you very much for alerting us. Something switched around. So we're good to go. Right. So we're talking about dredging and the fact that, first of all, just the very word
Provokes debate.
evokes debate
Yes.
and certain imagery and questions of environmental um, destruction.
Yes.
But you were saying dredging is essentially underwater excavation.
Yes, it's essentially underwater excavation, and for the purpose of the port modernization project, the contractor is using what is called a trailing suction hopper dredge. This is a vessel that will extend an arm down to the seabed and remove the sand that we're seeing in the background and store it on board in the hopper. And then once that is done, it brings it to the construction site and delivers it onto the footprint by multiple methods. We've been observing the rainbowing, the rainbowing of material. Yeah. We've been observing what the process, which is called rainbowing, which is the material shooting out of the bow of the vessel.
Well, I see it a lot.
And in cases,
and for those who, while you're talking,
yes,
for those who missed it this morning, this is what the rainbowing method.
We'll observe the vessel simply comes to port with a very low water line and then rises and it disappears again. That's when the vessel is in place to what you call rotting down the material. But seeing that you're on site, I think the key point is that you can tell the people that the reclamation material that we remove from the south coast, tell them. And show exactly what is happening. Yes.
It was good quality, good mix, no fish bowl,
It's free of coral, it's free of seagrass, it's free of any life that also speculates could have been a consequence of this accident. And we will show evidence of that.
Materials get imported.
Yes, correctly so.
But we are where we are. Why are we?
So the contractors, right? The contractors that bidded on the port project, right? Bidded in under the environment where the question of the ultimate source of reclamation was never conclusively answered. The procurement went through in that manner, right? Aecon and the second place bidder would have submitted bids for evaluation at the second stage of tender, where they both they base their bid principally on the importation of material from an external source. In the case of Aecon, they base that bid on the importation of material from Barbados. But in addition to doing that, they would have identified wanting to use local resources from the island's quarries. And also, Aecon specifically identified that they have identified a local marine source, but that source would be subject to the necessary approvals from the physical planning department and the owners of the material, the government, in order for them to develop it. So they would have submitted their bid in that context, right? We all know when you go through these processes, sometimes your supplier that you got your quotation from may not have the item that you need when you're ready for it, right? And you're already locked into a contract that has a timeline and consequences if you go over that timeline and so on. So Aecon decided to explore fully the use of the local reclamation source, which was identified to be a borough area of the southeast coast between Argyle, Brighton, Diamond vicinity. I think the question the public have in mind is, did the government allow Akon to run circles around them and make a handsome profit
Well,
because of this
here's the
change?
thing, and let me not even go there yet,
Okay.
because I am not even sure if the public has that
Has that
perception.
perception? Great.
I'm not even sure if that perception is out in the public. There may be question arising because of some things that have been put in the public domain. But I'm not sure if there is
Yes.
that overwhelming desire to have that question answered. But we'll get to that.
Right.
We'll get to that. Now, for Akon to identify the source, it means that they had an idea that something may be available at that bar area that you pointed out to. Now, I remember, because I work in the Prime Minister's office, as Press Secretary, and I remember when this force came up, the Prime Minister started talking about reports and investigations and studies to show that this was environmentally, economically, socially sustainable and viable.
Yes.
Were such studies and investigations carried out?
Yes. Akon had to do their studies to satisfy that the material was fit for purpose. It is in the volume that they need. It is accessible by the method of excavation that they chose, right? But the government also had to be comforted, because it is the government authorities that have to give the approval physical planning. So to do physical planning, and ESIA had to be done. A lot of technical notes with regards to
ESIA.
Environmental impact assessment study had to be done. It was done by a local individual for Akon, right, to support their application to the physical planning department.
And this EIA, this environmental impact assessment, was scientific.
Yes, it followed all of the processes. You had the consultation, you had the initial data gathering with regards to the nature of the resource, so that you could describe it to the physical planning department. An evaluation of an assessment of alternatives, all of those necessary background and mitigation measures to be taken, and whether the exercise is seen to be feasible, along with some caveats too. Because most professionals would put in this, my study is subject to these caveats,
absolutely.
right? But the conclusion of that ESIA was that it is feasible, right? But that was an ESIA document that was done for and on behalf of the contractor, reviewed by our local authorities. The government cabinet, they too had to be comfortable and not rely solely on data presented. And we went about and we had additional studies to be done. Photographic survey of the seabed, videographic survey of the seabed. There was a parametric eco-sounding exercise to ensure that the resource that was identified is in fact suitable, sand and so on. And then there was the bathymetric survey that was done, which was key in addressing conclusively the issue of potential impacts on livelihood, right? And also to give the government a baseline for measurement of the material. So the bathymetric survey, in addition to giving the water depths, that when you excavate, the water depth will increase. So you have your initial bathymetric, and then there will be a final one after the dredging is complete. The more critical aspect of that bathymetric exercise was to take what I refer to now as a sonar photo of the entire borough area. And that is done using the specialist equipment to do so. And from that photograph, we then were able to know conclusively that there's no presence of coral, there's no presence of seagrass, there's no presence of rock ledges. And this is important because with the presence of these marine structures, it shows that you have the potential for thriving habitats. So the absence thereof indicates that there's no such habitat. And we've been in it long enough now, Sienna. Tomorrow, Tuesday, it's 2 weeks since the dredging exercise has been ongoing. And we're not. I want the cameraman to come back, because we're here, and we can see that there's no seagrass in the sand which has been removed. There's no coral fragments. There's no rocks, etc. So that bathymetric survey allowed for us to conclusively rule out the the existence of a thriving habitat, contrary to some claims. We also had we took the fishermen of Calico to site so that they can explain their part of the narrative. That exercise was not, I said they did not stitch together a proper narrative, because see, if I use in an area, I should be able to tell you the long, the short, and the history of the whole thing. And most importantly, that should show up to in the science. The word of mouth information should be confirmed by the science, because it has to work together. Critically, also, the government was concerned about the impact on coastal infrastructure. The key piece of coastal infrastructure there was the international airport. Significant national pride went into that construction. Significant sacrifice went into that construction, and it would have not been prudent to just allow for an exercise that would cause any future damage as a consequence of that execution. So University of Hamburg was engaged to independently answer precisely the question: will this dredging scheme in its geometry and placement create impacts that will be detrimental to the Argyle International Airport?
Like tsunamis and so forth.
No, we're not getting to tsunamis. Tsunamis is a separate phenomenon, right? We also had to answer the sedimentology issue as to whether or not removing the resource, if the resource will be replenished, and if it will impact the beaches and so on. Those reports came back. The conclusion of that report came back and said that the dredging scheme will not impact the wave energy that gets to shore, right? And it's key because it is the wave energy that results in destruction. And the wave energy increases if the scheme will increase the significant wave height in the vicinity. But the significant wave height, after modeling the original bathymetry, what currently exists using present data, and going all the way back 30 plus years, after incorporating that using adverse storm conditions. Hurricane Irma was the model used to assess the adverse conditions, and showing what is happening now. What is happening when you remove 1 meter of material? What happened when 1.5 meters and 2 meters? When you get to 2 meters of extraction of material,
You want to go down to the sand and
yes.
play up with this. Don't play up. But it was like a handful, okay? Yeah. I don't want to see you and a man and pelting bombs and so on and each other. Okay.
Yes, Jan. So when the studies came back with regards to the impact on the significant wave heights in the vicinity, it shows that if you remove 0.5 meter, 1 meter, 2 meters of material, the maximum increase in significant wave height that was recorded was 3 centimeters. And the significant wave height for that vicinity is 4.3 meters. So under normal circumstances, you're going to have a 4.3 meter wave moving through. And after you do the worst case of dredging, that significant height increases by 3 centimeters. You can go with a rule and try to put 3 centimeters on that way, and you would realize why we say it is insignificant. So technically the implementation of the dredging scheme did not impact the sensitivity of the significant waves acting in the vicinity of Argyle and so on, under normal circumstances and under extreme worst case circumstances. And that was important because it means that if these waves, if you're not changing up that wave pattern, you directly, not indirectly, but you're not gonna have waves getting to shore with increased energy to result in increased beach erosion and impact on the airport and so on. The airport, was constructed to withstand waves much higher than 4.3 meters, 4.3 meters. So the airport has its own built-in structural redundancy, but factors of safety and so on as it relates to the impact to waves.
It's mitigation measures.
Yeah, its own design and so on to deal with those things, and that is key. You mentioned tsunamis, right? Tsunamis are a separate phenomenon, right? And that energy is generated from whatever source, be it from the earthquake, a landslide movement, and so on. And that energy gets dissipated on the shore. Now, what will happen if we have a tsunami? If a tsunami occurred before, if that same tsunami occurred before the dredging scheme, the mere fact that the government has approved for Aecon to go and remove the material for the construction of the port, right? That new basin out there is not going to cause an exacerbation of what impact the tsunami would have without the dredging scheme. You understand?
Right.
There's no sense. There's not going to be a sensitivity link there, And the science to it is very basic, But the data to analyze and so on, you have to, collect a lot of, relevant information
Now,
and so on.
we're talking to you, and you're giving us a lot of information, and a lot of it is technical information. And just to make the point, but mind you, I must see you making the information as relatable as possible. And I'm sure many of the individuals who are on live, who are listening on radio, are understanding exactly, or at least have a better understanding of what is going on based on the information you're presenting.
Yes.
But let's talk a little bit about your own ability to be able to divulge this information based on training and experience. because and that's why I could have come and say, tell me about Linsky and tell me about subjects here and so on and so on and so on. But I said no. Let me allow Linsky to talk. Let me allow him to put over the information based on the comments on the live people understanding. So, what in your training, experience, certification allows you to be able to speak to these issues?
You need for me to get into.
Just a little bit.
I don't talk a lot about myself.
That's all right. Sometimes you need to.
Right? Okay. My background in terms of training as an engineer, I did civil with environmental engineering at the University of the West Indies. And I got a course class.
Civil with environmental engineering.
Yes.
So your training, apart from the engineering aspect, the civil aspect, also gives you an awareness and a certain level of training regarding the environment aspect.
Yes, to appreciate how environmental matters relates to infrastructure, civil infrastructure and civil works. When I did my program, environment was becoming more important.
Yes.
As it is now that social sensitivities to infrastructure project is becoming more and more important. I came back, I worked at the port for a significant amount of years. While working at the port, working on getting the port project up. And in between time, I did my master's in project management, right? And I've been able to work along with professionals within the relevant fields closely on committees, subcommittees, and so on. And I think it is understanding what is happening that allows me to translate the information in lesser technical terms so that the normal person can relate and understand what's happening. It's probably just a natural gift. I used to teach too,
Well, and that is exactly where it starts. I think that is exactly where it starts. That training teaching.
So
I did that for a number of years as well.
That helps with the public speaking and so on.
Public speaking and making sure that everybody, when they teach it for the slowest and not for the brightest.
Yes.
So you have that level of training, and of course, your experience have given you a level of competence to deal with these matters. And so, as the assistant port manager, you're integral in the supervision of and the reviewing of reports, actions, and so forth of the contractor and everybody involved.
Our precise unit, the project implementation unit, is basically the nexus between the government through the ministry and the steering committee and you trade all the way up, and the link between the supervision consultant and also the contractor. So we're right in the middle. So we get the information coming in and we disseminate the information going out, and you'll be able to influence the process as it goes along. I think here on this project too, Sion, I've been on this project from the zero. So a lot the history of a lot of these issues, where did we come from concept studies to feasibility studies to tendering to approval of the contractor and the negotiations and so on. You know what I mean? I've been involved in all of these things going forward, and you would appreciate the wide scope of work involved in being competent and comfortable to do these things. And we're this far, and I'm looking forward to 2025 to hopefully be able to say I'm the only person that served on the project full
Very
time
true.
from start to end, undisputed.
Now, we discussed the issue of livelihoods.
Yes.
Because there's discussion about fishing.
Yes.
There's discussion about whatever habitat to be at the bottom, coral, natural those areas that goes to marine biology and those various fields. But ultimately, deals with the ecosystem. Uh, you did a bathymetric study, and you did the photographing of at the ocean level. Were those studies, in your view and in the view of the professionals who reviewed it, conclusive enough
Yes.
to give you the
Yes.
direction going forward?
Yes. Conclusive enough. We can be skeptical because one of the school of thought is, well, the government can pay people to write whatever, but at the end of the day, when you have a team of persons looking at the same thing, not everyone will want to come back and compromise their professional integrity to go forward. It's a big risk. It's a big risk had this dredging scheme been approved, and all of a sudden, you see grass floating, coral, and so on. You understand what I mean, Sion?
Yes.
And like I said, we're in it 2 weeks now, and you are here to witness live, and your audience have seen the clear, clean quality
Yes,
of material
absolutely.
that is being extracted.
Absolutely.
We said we're gonna remove sand, and we're removing sand. And we said that area is barren, and that area is in fact barren. You understand? That doesn't discount that a man may trawl a line through and hook a few fishes still, because the transients will continue.
Yes,
Just like
yes.
how you're on the port project site now, and later you're at your place of abode, and in the morning you're back at the
Or
office.
leave and they might say, but wait, I just him on the port.
Yes,
Absolutely.
But Sion, we have to make sure and tell the people that live along the southeast coast that what the government is doing, or what the government has approved, right, by allowing Aecon to dredge in that vicinity, in no way increases their vulnerability based on the science, right? Not based on any historical knowledge that may not check out factually. We just have plenty stories that get carried along years after year.
Folklore.
But when you come in with a scientific approach to assess some of these stories, right, they don't check out. So there's no underwater backwall, right? There's no sand barrier that is forming a last line of defense for the people along the southeast coast. You know what I mean? These things did not check out on the studies that we did,
The scientific studies
on
that
the
were done.
scientific studies that we did, and they did not check out even in previous documentation and studies that were done for separate activities in and around the vicinity, right? The imagination is an interesting thing, but we're telling the people of south of Diamond, Brighton, Argyle, that the dredging scheme that is executed in no way makes you, your infrastructure, and your future any more vulnerable than it would have been under normal circumstances. That's a key point.
And I would add that this government over the last number of years has been one that has ensured that it is working a lot on climate
Yes. Climate resilience
resilient
and so on.
infrastructure,
Yes.
putting in things like seawall and river defenses and so on, so that we are interested in protecting communities, protecting people, protecting livelihoods, and that's the hallmark of this government. So the dredging that is being done in no way makes you any more vulnerable.
Yes.
It does not increase your level of vulnerability. You're not worse off because they're dredging, but the country can be better off because they're dredging. And we're going to talk a little bit about that for two reasons. One, somebody on the live posted this, and maybe you could explain it to me.
No problems.
The person said, I'm going to look for it. It's Gans Byron. Gans Byron made the point saying that he couldn't understand. I still don't understand how materials coming from overseas could be cheaper than getting it locally. And I guess he's talking about the materials for the filling.
Right. Now, the material the point that we have to explain as it relates to the dredging and the importation, right, is that after signing the contract, the contractor had a fixed amount of money for this particular activity. That amount of money was um, linked to a particular methodology, right, of importation. It was not just linked to buy and sell, right? If you're to think it through, if you're to buy material from overseas, right, you have to get it from a supplier. That supplier has to do the processing, etc. Aecon is buying the material locally, but Aecon has to take on the responsibility of doing the processing and so on, right? Now, the methodology of using a tug and barge to bring material to St. Vincent, right? We can do the research to see how that compares with the cost of mobilizing a dredge. A dredge don't just sit on a shelf waiting for St. Vincent to build a port to want to mobilize and so on. And the point, I think, the point I wanted to make, and I think have to clarify, because person may come up with that, I said it is cheaper. It may not necessarily work out to be cheaper, but it does not equate to an immediate significant advantage to the contractor, because they gotta switch up the methodology, right? The when you look at construction rates, Sion, these rates, you might see a rate that's a purchase of material, but that rate also includes some profits for the contractor as they distribute it across their different items for the bid. It includes costs for insurance. It includes costs for other eventualities. So when the government sat down and they negotiated with Aecon for $20 million to pay for the local use of the local material, the fixed amount that Aecon had for reclamation, the reclamation activity, they now got to take 20 million out of that to pay to the government. They now got to mobilize a dredge, and people may say, but if they thought that they could have get it locally, then they would have probably made a calculation to support. Let me balance it out this way in the event I have to switch and so on. But these are risk and calculations that they would have to make. We have to incorporate what was submitted and also project and estimate how things will work out. So they now have to, they switch from a tug and barge to a dredge. And I'm saying the dredging activity is more expensive than that tug and barge. You understand? And then everything sort of balances out. So the significant point is, the government is selling out no country patrimony, right? And Aecon here run much circles around the government. But when you consider all issues within that circumstance, right? The best decision was made and the best agreement made. We moved from 1 million to 20 million.
Exactly.
The best agreement was made to ensure that the government is adequately compensated for the resource. The government is adequately compensated for the resource, so we can have Vincentian material to build a Vincentian port, and we have Vincentian benefit, because the 20 million that the government made from this resource can go to other developmental activities in and around the same vicinity of Diamond, Argyle, and so on, and into other stuff.
Well, let me give you.
It is not an equal significant advantage that Aecon got. Right, and we have the numbers to show. And persons can be comfortable.
Well, I put it like this, Amlinsky, and because when I saw a comment like that, I questioned how that made sense.
Yeah.
So my good friend Marlon, by the way, thank you very much, Marlon. Some individuals were commenting about the music in the background. We couldn't do anything about it, but Marlon did try, and because he's a man on the ground.
Yes.
He go on and knock the thing nicely, and they turn it down, and they turn it off, but they turn it back on, but at least the door. So we got a bit of a relief. So thank you very much, Marlon. Exactly. That's all right. Now, this is how I compare it. Imagine the same Marlon has a nice 20-acre plot, and he hires some people to farm it on his behalf. So they're farming the land on Marlon's behalf. And a part of the farming thing is manual. Hundreds of dollars of manual, thousands of dollars of manual to get the soil ready and for them and so on. But Marlon has some cattle that he wearing on another part, and plenty down Delhi. And they said, but wait, we ain't gonna buy the money from X, Y, or Z. We could use the cattle down. Marlon said, well, listen to me now. You could use the cattle down, but it ain't for free. So you're buying cattle down from me to put on my farm. You understand? And you bring it on my behalf. To me, that is some serious negotiation. I would shake my man and say, boy, you're the boss. So when I look at that and I see that the government of St. Red using material from our coast is able to get the contractor to pay $20 million for that resource to be used right in St. Vincent and Grenadines. I mean, the idea of selling it out for pennies, I'm still trying to figure out how that is even relevant and where that comes in. But I guess people, individuals looking at some things, they ask questions, they make their comments, and I don't have a problem with people asking questions, but they come and without any information make definitive statements, and very, very often incorrect statements, and that's where I have my challenge. But so we discussed that this material that we got, it's Vincentian material that is harvested in an environmentally friendly way, in an economically sustainable way, and in a financially beneficial way. So we ain't spending money to buy it. We actually getting money. We actually getting money because of the sale of it. And that to me is a what is the term I want to use? A master stroke. It is an absolute master stroke as we look towards the development of the port. Now, exactly how much of this is going to happen, Linsky? I mean, as I said, right here was the road. A few feet over was the wall. But now we see quite a bit of beach. How far out and how far down is this going?
You read from Marlon's note. Right? So, Sian, we're filling the equivalent of about 6 acres of land.
6 acres.
Right? The measurement, for persons who know Kingstown, we're moving from just off the fish market down towards the back of the agriculture import warehouse, right? And then we're going out 130 meters out to sea.
Okay.
Right? By the end of this month, we'll be able to walk 130 meters out to sea.
That is about
on Vincent
a length and a half of the running track. 100-meter track.
Yes.
Okay. 1.3.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's significant. From the wall out?
Huh? Yes, from the reclamation site road
out.
But from where the seawall used to.
Right, the wall, right.
Where the seawall.
So which is over there.
130 meters offshore.
Going out. Okay. And this part would be exactly what area of the port?
Well, the port will have multiple functions. So to the top end, you will have the garage and the break bulk warehouse, and then you would have the admin building coming parallel to the previous reclamation site road. You're gonna have your parking. You're gonna have a container freight station, which is a warehouse,
right,
for the the stuffing and people collecting the personal effects and so on. Similar to what happens at the transit shed. You're gonna have your stacking yard for your reefer containers, your ordinary containers, waste storage, hazardous containers, the lighting and all of the drainage facilities and stuff like that. Full works. Yeah.
What is the level of employment here now? I came and there were four excavators here.
Yes.
We came to the security.
Yes.
I met some individuals there. What is the level of employment on the port now? And what is the expectation maybe in another 4 months, 5 months, 6 months?
The contractor project manager indicated that local employment will raise to over about 250 individuals. Right? Quite naturally, when the work really get going, because we have to finish up, the reclamation has to be finished before all of the work, which are not so technical, gets going. You understand? Right now we're dealing with the need for the masons, the labor, and so on. But Aecon themselves have 30 Vincentians employed permanently. The subcontractors, they have their own crew employed, and also the security, they are subcontractors, so you could see that employment spill off there and so on. and it is expected to rise once you have more construction related activity that will absorb the sort of skills that we have, that we need. The masons, the carpenters, the helpers. You know what I mean? They have a lab tech, which is a Vincentian, and concrete batching plant operator, which is Vincentian, that they also up training also.
Okay.
You know, yeah. So employment right now is as per the amount of work which is being done. There's a reasonable expat community given the technical work which is being done. The reclamation, the sewer line installation that was done by a subcontractor from Grenada and so on. And it is expected that the numbers would rise as the demand would rise.
Okay.
Yes.
So I have a few questions on
Yes.
the live. But before I ask these questions, I want to bring in Marlon a little bit. So Bling, just focus the camera, Marlon. But come close to the table. Bling will use the camera for you. And so my question to you, Marlon, is you the man on the ground, right? What do you see the community integration, the spill off in terms of small business action and the whole community buy-in? What do you think, from your opinion, what has that been like since the start of the project?
That's a tough one. Now we have had some disruption.
Yes.
I must be honest with that,
Right.
because what you're looking at here, there's a hub of activity,
Like
but those
right
persons
here.
were compensated,
Yes.
and a lot of them relocated to other areas. From time to time, I do visits and so see some people continue livelihood. Some people went to the yard, put up a shop and stuff like that.
Right.
I would say the peak of activity for the port has not spilled off yet, because as the employment rise and man walk out to the picture, you would see a hike in spending
Okay.
and so forth.
Okay.
So that's some of that's yet to happen. But I see a continuity, because some of the people who are there, you're in Tokyo, you go down some on the street, you see some of them. One or two of them I visit in the home areas.
Mhm.
They set up a shop in Camden Park, one have a little business in Vermont. So they're doing their own little thing. But to see a big impact, I think from the project itself, I think when the numbers go up and man start walking off the project with the pay packet, you will see a little more heightened activity.
But interestingly enough, Marlon, and that is exactly, you knew exactly what I was asking. So that already there is impact.
Yeah,
It
there
is
is.
not at the level that it would be at the peak of the project,
Right.
but already
Yeah.
you see the spill off.
Yeah,
You
the
see,
spill off,
you
yeah.
see things happening.
Yeah, because here you have, just recently I was in the Mill Street buying lunch for my daughter, and at that facility, I never before saw Caucasians eating lunch in Middle Street.
Right.
And I saw on more than one occasion Caucasian eating lunch, and they're paying, I think, a lunch there $17. You know, typically,
Right.
what we
Yeah,
do the hustle.
Right.
We have $10, $5, $7 kind of thing.
Exactly.
Okay.
The indirect benefits.
Yeah, so we seeing some of the persons who are coming in there buying and so forth. There's a lady down the road used to do breakfast. I used to go around 9 o'clock and I'll get something from her.
No, not 9 o'clock.
Not 9 o'clock, not happening. She tells me you're too late.
Yeah.
So you're seeing some of those little movements and so forth. But I as I said, I expect the impact to really drive home as we see more numbers coming on stream, which is natural.
Sian, if you allow me just to say a bit about the indirect impact.
Mhm.
The expat community that comes into work on the project, they need housing,
Yes.
they need vehicles,
Yes.
they have to do the groceries and the meals and
Yes.
so on.
Yes.
So we have that indirect impact of persons not right on the boundary of the project benefiting as the project goes. And as Marlon said, the project has not yet peaked
Yes.
in terms of the mobilization of the human resource and so on.
Mhm. In terms of the Tokyo, we're right there by the bus terminal. And there has had to occur some changes, some
Yeah.
adjustments. So it's not the come in and come out anymore. But and you have over there blocked off. So you need the traffic that came down as well, all that stuff. By now, you see people have already adjusted to this reality, or do you still hear the murmurings of the inconvenience?
Well, I think they're very adaptable, and I think they have adjusted well. I must compliment. Initially, there was some noise because people don't like change.
Yes.
But I think the gentlemen have adjusted, and I think to some extent it has benefited them, because when you exit and enter from the same area, when you're collecting passenger, you have less work to do. As opposed to you have to run up and down here. You stay one area, you let off, and as you let off, you collect, you harvest, you harvest right there.
Because I remember,
So
when
from
guys used to
vendors,
walk all the
yeah,
offices to
all-
yeah.
So it's on the main street. It's on the main street. So you see, they catch you if you go in Water Authority, you go in Kevin Park Industrial Estate, they capture you one time, you know. So there's no benefit for this. The workers are leisure, or they can harvest on a smaller area. So, you know, that's even, you know, but I would say that they have adapted quite well so far.
Do you find, Linsky, that in all of the work that you've been done at the port, and I heard you yesterday when I spoke last week Friday, even before I knew you were going to be on radio and so forth. Do you see experience, leaving Malan, formal requests for information, that may, from journalists, from social commentators, uh, who are interested in putting the information out, or is there a situation where people just put things out there in your view and hope that it would fly, it would fly over, it would go under the radar, nobody would pick it up, and how is that impacting your jobs, your own job, your job here on the board?
Well, the formal requests come from the serious media personnel and media houses, right? And we do our best to comply and to get the information out. We also partner very closely with the Agency for Public Information from day one. They have been almost like the authoritative source for updates on the project, which is done periodically when there's something new and exciting happening. And I noticed of recently they've been using their Facebook page to do these instantaneous updates. The most recent one being our permanent secretary visiting to inspect the works and so on. But our office is open for inquiry. We try our best to get the information out, and yeah.
Well, I want to tell you of an incident. There's a person with this surname more connected to royalty, and I won't get into because that family is very, However, the person on Facebook, something was spoken about relocating the residents of Rose Place. And that person, before the list come out and we move the people, because the talk was around, moving 47 families to Lomas, building houses for them. The person was adamant that they're going to be ULP persons getting houses, and the people down bottom down not going to get houses.
Nothing further from the truth.
It happened, 47 families, no scandal, no accusation made. People who felt they were justified made noise, but we had a rationale and it didn't fit. And at the end, when they challenged, they still couldn't fit. But that person never came back and apologized. I never bothered to take it up because you can't engage some of these people. I took a professional stance that, I let that thing. But there are people like that who are throwing things out to see how they can muddy the water, and they twisted minds. They're making it work. So I didn't get into that. And
one thing we've been doing to be efficient, right, is that we've been communicating very effectively and efficiently with the project affected persons directly. Because it is those people we have to take care of immediately in order to get our work done and to continue the progress of the project, right? The dissemination of project information, I guess we can always be criticized that we can put out a lot more. But again, the project is not at the peak as yet, if you to break it down in terms of activities thus far, we've successfully done the resettlement, contractor taking possession of the site, sewer line removed from outside the footprint of the port, reclamation commence. Those are the global activities, really, and then you would have the updates with regards to expenditure during the estimates and budget sessions and so on. So information have been out there with regards to the project, and our office is open, like I said, for inquiries, and we do our best to comply as best as possible.
How long? What is the expected period for the reclamation aspect of it? We addressed a while ago that this part has to be finished before
the placement of the material is projected to last maximum 7 weeks. Once the weather holds properly and the weather,
2 weeks.
Tuesday tomorrow will be two weeks
Okay.
by the day. The progress so far, the guys have moved upwards of 350,000 cubic meters of material,
And the total amount that you want to
right?
move?
1.17 million cubic meters. So they are just about 30% complete, right? And by the end of this month, as I said earlier, the material will be in place. After the material is in place, the contractor then has to come through and start the compaction. The method of compaction will be vibro compaction because they have to compact both the placed material and the seabed. The total depth of compaction minimum will be 30 meters from the top of reclamation material straight down through to the seabed with one method efficient. Get it to the density that it needs to get to, and then once that is done, the contractor will then start putting in the key wall. They will vibro compact where the key wall is to go, which is the piles to form up the port. We put in the piles, vibro compact the area, put in those piles, and then continue a pace to get keep the vibro compacting being done ahead of the installation of the piling works. And then once that is done, the key wall to be tidied up, and you start. They actually want to have the building frames up by the end of this year. So we're hoping when we leave and we break for Christmas, we would see the buildings already in place and so on. That's how quickly the guys are moving, but in no way compromising the quality of work that has to be done.
All right. That's a very ambitious and timeline. But like you said, so far the work has been going
Yes.
quite efficient.
Yes.
Even with the adjustment, or
Yes.
especially with the adjustment of the material, you have
Yes.
pretty good work happening.
The overall completion of physical progress on project activities is just about 25%. And we went through 1 year. So you could technically do the maths that we're 1/3 of the time and 25% of the work done. But the early part is where you just rev up now.
Okay.
Now now we're at a point where things will be going at a much faster pace and a much more coordinated pace because a lot of the preliminary design work would have been done. The mobilization and procurement of material on the contractor part. You know what I mean? Now they're concentrating on shipping, getting equipment, getting material here and so on. And keep the work at pace. So yes.
Okay, so let's get
Questions.
some of the questions.
Yes, for sure. The hard ones too.
Okay. Someone asked, please ask Mr. Douglas, what are the measurements of the area that is being filled with the sand? And I
We
believe
answered,
you
we answered that
question
earlier.
already.
Yes.
All right. Where are we now? This person is asking, do you think that the same process can be used to replace the Villa and Indian Bay beaches?
That's a good observation. Now, the process of dredging can also be used for beach nourishment. You know what I mean? So if there's a need for and you may not necessarily need a trailing hopper suction dredge. You can maybe use a simpler approach. You can probably have a backhoe dredge or something like that.
Okay.
But yes, this vessel, the HAM 316, can remove material from a particular vicinity and rainbow it onto the beach, nourish the beach, and have a much better, a larger area for recreation.
So in areas like the Indian Bay Villa, where you definitely see the impact of sea level rise.
It is a feasible method, but it will have to be done as a separate project,
of course,
separate procurement.
Of course.
Yes.
Yes. Another question: could you ask how would the construction of the new bus terminal be incorporated into the modern port project?
Well, it is incorporated by the constitution of the committee that is dealing with it. The steering committee that was set up to deal with the Little Tokyo bus terminal as the representation of the port project on it. So we're going through. Be assured that the facilities will be integrated. We're not operating in isolation because you hear port project. We have to be mindful of all of the other development. I think it's the other way around. The other smaller development have to be mindful of our presence, but we work together with the committees and so on. Yes.
Okay. Is there any environmental relevance to the use of local sand compared to the importation, with the possibility of bringing in any foreign creatures?
Good question. Now you see, the environmental impacts are different, right? But it would have still led to a debate because to import foreign sand, you have a different health requirement, quarantine and not quarantine, but inspections to make sure you don't have foreign life, bacterium and stuff like that coming through. So there would have been a debate. What we can assure you is that the removal of this local resource is having as minimal environmental impact as possible, especially on the critical components of any potential for infrastructure damage on the coast, exacerbation of coastal erosion, and there's an environmental management plan for the dredging alone in Ocean to look at issues that have not even reached in the public domain.
So even some of those individuals,
Yes.
who are out there discussing the issue of the dredging and the environmental aspect, have not even discussed some of the real critical issues that are addressed.
That are addressed within the management plan itself. Down to the level, the concern about climate, down to the level of emissions from the vessel. It's a part of the environmental management plan for the dredging.
Okay.
You hear about climate change, right?
Yes,
so we look at that
yes,
too.
Yes.
So the publicly discussed item is not the only issue. It's not the only issue. So our team have to factor a lot more than what is being publicly discussed and debated. And it's pointing to some measures, right? The vessel is moving from Argyle to Kingstown.
Yes.
And in between that's the South Coast Marine Park. One of the things we've insisted is that the vessel should not travel through the marine park. So when it leaves Argyle, to avoid the boundaries of the marine park to come into Kingstown. That's not absolutely necessary, but it's a measure that we take anyway because you have to show respect for the government's initiative to establish an area for the growth and thriving of marine resources. And tell me something, Sian. If Argyle was such a thriving marine area with life and biodiversity, why did the consultant at the time that established the marine park not extend the boundary to include those areas? They may give you an argument about, oh well, fellas still have to make a living, but it's not a responsible measure to allow for people to make a living from where your resources maturing. Wait until they get big and go somewhere else. You see, so sometimes when you think about some of the things, Sion, we don't even have to go too scientific, we just gotta go logical and rational.
Absolutely agree. Now let's talk a little bit about replenishment. We run out of time.
No problem.
But let's talk a little bit about replenishment because sun has been removed.
Yes.
And are we going to now have like it's being portrayed a deep crater and they kind of suck out all the sun, or is there going to be sand being replaced? And while you're looking at that, discuss why East Coast as opposed to West Coast.
I'm gonna be simple about the replenishment issue, right? Maybe 2 or 3 points. One, the resource location. The location that was approved for dredging only has in over 10 million cubic meters of material. We're removing 1.17, so we're basically removing just a little over 10%. So we're leaving back 90%.
Yes.
We're extracting at depths no more than 2 meters. Now, the distance, right? And this is for the imagination. The distance is from Millican Cay. The dredge comments here.
Listen,
watch me, I get some extra time here.
Yeah, we went over time. The dredge comment, we went over time. I want those on the live especially to see the dredge coming in. Blake, pick up the dredge number.
The management had to give you overtime for this one.
This one.
Right, so back to the point while Ham coming. I want to give people an exercise to do mentally. We're dredging linearly from, let's say, Milliken K, but we 750 meters off Milliken K, right?
Right.
And we're going up to Waraku, right?
Mhm.
And we're taking out less than 2 meters, so less than 6 feet of material. If you pull a line from from Waraku to Milliken K, and you go the center and you pull it down 2 meters, you can't perceive the depression there because of the long distance
Yes,
over which
right,
the material.
yes,
So we're
yes,
not
yes,
leaving
yes.
any crater.
Yes, right.
And that is one of the key things about this operations too, in terms of environmental safety, right? And also to protect the coast, though we're so far from the shoreline. The dredging is being done in a manner that you do not create a circumstance for any seabed collapse. That's why you see the vessel keep going up and down, because they just skim in, and the government limit them to 2 meters. So nowhere on that site after the removal of this clean sand will you have a 2 meter deep
Yep.
hole, a 6 feet deep hole over the vast area. If the contractor has to remove all of the material, right, at 2 meter, if the contractor extracts at 2 meters, they can remove all of the material from just about 1/3 of the total site that the government approved for them. But they're not doing that. They're utilizing the entire site, so it minimizes that depth. Was there another part to the question? Why Leeward?
Yes, and I'm saying, we're looking at we're
I
an
know
island.
when you ask that question, you want to hear the repetition about the extent
Absolutely.
of the
Come on.
shelf and
Let's
the
talk
currents
shelf.
and so
Let's
on.
talk shelf.
Right. So on the windward side of the island, right, the shelf is wider than on the leeward side. That's why the leeward beach is so deep, so quick.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And why the windward beaches so they're deep too, but in terms of profile,
It goes further out.
you can go a lot
Yes, yes.
further out and more gradually. So when the material comes down from north, it has the opportunity to sediment, to drop out of the current stream. Larger bits first, sand in and around the vicinity of Argyle, and the silt gone somewhere. The silt float past Argyle. That's why you have not much silt content in this material. Understand? Because when you get to Argyle, the silt that coming down from up north still settle out entirely.
Right.
So that would go a bit further.
Right.
On the leeward end, the shelf is much shorter. It gets much deeper. So the process that led to this deposit of Argyle, right? The conditions on the leeward end does not prevail to allow for that to occur. So even though a whole set of material come down in Larrakai and Richmond and those places, by the time it go offshore, it's in 400, 500, 600 feet of water. The technical limitation to most dredge is about 150 feet.
For those individuals who are familiar with Richmond, you would know. By the time you step out in Richmond, it's done. And that's why a lot of people drown at Richmond over the years, because they're not familiar with it.
Very
quickly. Drop off very quickly. Now let me just say, we're coming up close to 6 o'clock, and so those of you on radio may have to go because of the star evenings and so on, but those on the live will be able to stick around and actually see some dredging once the dredger comes in. So we can continue.
Not some dredging, some rainbowing of material. Let me hope I do that. Yes.
I'm learning today. Just now, I am going to become an engineer too now. Exactly.
A street beat engineer.
Yeah. You talk to me about rainbowing, and you tell me about something else. I go in Google. And I come back tomorrow and talk about it. All right.
Street beat engineer. Leave the Google thing.
Okay. So you would be able to see, those of you on the live who stick around would be able to see some of the rainbowing occurring right in front of your eyes live this evening.
See the process by which the beach is being created in Kingstown. But it's only a beach until we enclose it to form the port. Yes.
Now, someone is asking, what impact if any, would this new port construction have on Edinburgh? And I'm not sure if he's talking about environmental impact, wave impact, or what. But from the coastal aspect of it, is there any studies?
Sion, not only have we done environmental studies for the dredging, we've done an environmental study for the port construction itself. And one of the exercises that was done as part of that environmental study, particularly too because of the sewer line, right, was to model the ocean characteristic before and after the placement to the port, right? One of the counterintuitive results that came through that modeling exercise is that the placement of the modern port on this end of Kingston, some people say western end, actually southern end. The northern end, sorry. This is the northern end. So placing the port here will protect the capital from flooding.
Oh.
That's one of the counterintuitive results that came through. Because when you place the infrastructure and you model the water coming down from the catchment area, sharps and green and those areas, and then you also model, even for extreme circumstances, the impact that you would have with the wave heights and surges and so on. The placement of the new port of Kingstown here protects the city. That's one of the results out of it. And the circulation patterns have been modeled to understand what will happen in terms of recirculation of any material from the sewage, and also how the currents may change because of the reclamation and so on. So these things have been studied and found to be feasible.
It's amazing because while you're getting the impression that somehow very little scientific work was done, speaking with you this afternoon, Lenski, gives me an idea that significant work, significant scientific work was done.
You know, you can't have the Caribbean Development Bank. You can't have the United Kingdom Caribbean Infrastructure Fund. You can't have Taiwan as a partner in a major infrastructure project. And don't expect that these people and institutions will insist on the basic stuff that persons would conceptualize that is required for an infrastructure project like this. But not only that, they ask for more too. We did a climate risk vulnerability assessment for the new port too, because the new port has to be climate resilient. And we needed those parameters to factor into the designs to make sure that the QoL is high enough so that when you have certain events and they start talking about 1 in 50 and 1 in 100 and those.
Yes.
Yeah, we go through all those sort of analysis, but we can't lose the audience in it. You understand?
I don't think I really
funding agencies provide a significant safeguard to ensure that proper engineering practices and processes are followed. I hear some people calling, inform CDB, inform UK that they're dredging out there. You think they don't know Sion? Come on now, man. Huh? You think they're going to hear Lenski talking in St. Vincent about reports that the government talking about, and they themselves don't have copies to understand what we're doing and sanction what we're doing and independent review internal what we're doing? It don't just happen like that. You understand? It don't just happen like that, Sion. And I made a subtle statement yesterday during my radio program. I said the government operate like a government, you know. Some people presume it's a puppy show government we have for the last 22 years, you know. But the government operate like a government, and the government has competent, trained, professional individuals to carry out the mandate, and in this case, the mandate of infrastructure development. There's a massive portfolio of projects the government have to unfold, you know.
It is. Now, this project will be the second largest capital project undertaken.
Depending on how you start counting. Rudy Matthias ain't gonna vex with me for that, because listen, you see the Argyle Airport?
Yes.
The Argyle Airport will always be a unique undertaking done by the Vincentian leadership.
Yes.
Because it took leadership.
Yes.
It didn't take much project management and things to get it done, but the vision and the leadership and knowing that this population can make that sacrifice to get it done. And we got it done.
Yes.
So I don't really like to have to count Argyle as one.
There was no city below.
I want to leave Argyle. You know when they used to do maths, right? They used to have like A prime, meaning it comes. So yeah. So we really, the port project is the largest capital project to be implemented in the manner in which it is being implemented. We have a contractor, we have funding agencies, we have engineering processes and systems, and the oversight. We are oversight on the project too, Sion. Don't think that Aecon just doing what they're doing.
Right,
when Aecon do what they do, and I'm talking simple now, when Aecon do what they do, Cellhorn had to check it. And when Cellhorn check it, we checking it too.
So
And
you checking the checker.
even when we don't check it, CDB gotta get an update and the report to check what was already checked.
So
And
serious
they want
redundancy.
the raw reports too. They want what I transcribe to make look pretty. Because people are skeptical, you know. There's people being skeptical. That's not how the process does work. You understand?
Absolutely.
And sometimes to avoid sometimes exposing, you should ask the question. Ask serious question and not ask speculations or ask answers.
Well,
Some people ask answers, you know.
Yes.
And
Yes.
if the information that is out there ain't go to them in the manner in which they want to receive it, then the question never answer. Because they don't ask the answer in their mind. A lecturer told me that. An engineering lecturer told me that. You gotta be careful of the people and them that asking answers. As this guy is as questions.
And we touched on this a little earlier. The fact that if in some instances there were questions asked, you wouldn't mind. But a lot of the discourse that is going on right now involves definitive statements that contain inaccurate information, not data, just speculation and information.
Yeah.
And so when for example, the post I read, and I don't want to get into it because I would, but you don't have to. The post I read about Prime Minister Gonzalez driving the final nail in the cup to St. Vincent and Grenadines, and
That's a poetry post.
I tell you, I will get into that. You stay out of that, and the fact that raking the limited resources that has been depleted after 40 years of sand mining from Brighton and so on and so on. And I'm going, where is the scientific basis for this post? Where is the scientific basis for anything that you just said? That the resource out there is actually depleted because of sand mining. Where is the scientific basis? And so I realized that people throw things out there with the hope that either one, their name or certification would intimidate individuals and will be fearful of responding, or two, it will just sneak under the radar and nobody would notice it.
See, I tell you this, sir. I staying out of it, you know. But
Yes,
I'll tell you this, right? The media, right? I think they need to understand that while entertainment is one thing, you keep your views up and stuff like that, and attract. There's still a responsibility to seek and to present facts, because we're in an environment now since Trump where fake news have become news.
Yes,
but
yes.
there is still the need for the young people to be exposed to content, right, that is factual or let's say reputable. When we used to go to school, they used to tell you make sure you try and get from a reputable source.
Yes.
So if it's news, you gotta go BBC, CNN, and so on. If it's news, you have to find a newspaper or you have to have a book. But right now, the reputable sources is anybody who may post an idea and so on. And there's still the responsibility to ensure that the young people that we may entertain, that we do not just entertain them to their detriment, but we know when to switch it up. Because you see the issue of the port project, the dredging, the reclamation, right? It's serious developmental work, There's a whole team, a trained, experienced scientists, some guys with multiple years, you know what I mean? When they tell you that this project is the second smallest project that they're working on, and we talking about second largest. You understand? It's an experienced team, and people are their reputation, and so on. We get distracted by ham.
Yeah, we are about to witness. I love Linsky and I love his presentation, but I know that from the time I mentioned Bling, that we might get to see the rainbow in. The live views went up from I think about 90 something, now to 118. You know what I mean? So people are coming on to see the actual rainbow, and the information is there. We're gonna be talking about the information, but it's still coming.
It's still have to come in a few meters, so we can still talk of
and we had, but once it started to rainbow, I turned in my iPad camera wrong, so I get the shot from the iPad.
Yes.
But it's with them.
Ham 316.
Okay.
That's the vessel name.
Yes, Ham 316. So Ham 316 coming in, and will be very soon rainbowing out the material harvested from I rather say harvested than dredged, harvested from off Argyle area
Yes.
that has been used to fill up the port. And we're chatting with Linsky Douglas. Also, we have here Marlon Stevenson. Marlon, what's your role on the project? Because we know Linsky, and a little man of the
Marlon is our community liaison officer.
community liaison officer. So,
Come next to
Marlon,
one.
we have with us Marlon. Marlon, what's your nickname again? No, I don't nickname. I don't nickname of the man. Oh Lord, what's your nickname again, boy? Come on, Marlon. Don't get
Not for radio.
But that's how I've met him. So you know,
You give it that one.
the name after your father.
People call me the same name like my father.
Right. At least that one day.
Mott.
At least that one day. Give me Mott.
But in the community, people call me Fitz.
It is called Fitz. Okay. So we are Mott here with me. Marlon Stevenson, who's the community liaison officer on the project.
Marlon, you gotta tell the people that we're going around and talking to the businesses on the boundary. You know?
Right. Well, myself and the community liaison person for our description is social. So the social person for the project from ACON, me and her should be going around to the business community, communicating to them what is going to happen after the process. Because there are going to be some vibrations, there are going to be
that's something vibro compacting.
Right.
I tell you again, the digital again, the engineering thing done now.
Heavy equipment will be going up and down, so there might be some noise here and there. So we
So
just
we
have to,
started,
so we have to alert people to what is happening. Because the last thing,
yes, go ahead, Marlon. Go ahead.
the last thing we want is people saying that nobody told us. So we're going out there. So we're preparing, and before the Friday this week, we should be going out and start touching bases with the businesses in the Kingstown area.
All right. So what we have now occurring right behind us is the rainbowing of the material, and Bling is trying to get in that. But I am going to use my camera. Hold on there. And give you a nice view
live
of the rainbowing material. This material is very clean sand. It's very, very clean sand now.
Oh, yeah, just.
Next slide. Very, very
Oh, yeah, just this. One lens. Let me get on to
there is no sediments, no debris in the sand. Very clean, very, very clean. Well processed sand being rainbowed here, deposited here from the harvesting site in Argyle. And we get a nice little location here, and we're looking at the rainbowing of the material. Seeing absolutely, Franklin McAllister, seeing is indeed believing this afternoon, and we're looking at the actual thing happening there. Now, Linsky told us earlier that this happens sometimes 3-4 times in a 24-hour period. So there's a lot of work happening. And remember that a few months ago, what you had here was the back wall, the seawall that ended the reclamation site. And on the seawall, you had vendors plying the trade. Those vendors were compensated, and that no longer happens here. And according to Mr. Douglas Linsky, we would be going out some 130 meters, which is 1.3 of a 100-meter race. You must imagine the 100-meter race on the Olympics. So add another 30 meters to that, and that's the length out that we'll be having here at the reclamation site. This is the vessel that was doing the harvesting, that is doing the harvesting of the material from Argyle, and daily, multiple times per day, it comes to this location and it deposits the harvested material to as part of the filling, the reclaiming of land outwards for our new port, our modern new port here in Kingstown, St. Vincent and the Grenadines. This is where we are at. And this afternoon we came here to chat with Linsky, and as fate would have it, while we are here, we are seeing the actual rainbow. You've seen a few clips on the program. Well, bling like you gonna right up the boy. Bling like you gonna right up on the boat if possible. But you're seeing the actual rainbowing of the material live. This is probably, I believe, the first time any live shot is being done of the rainbowing of material. The first time. As a matter of fact, let's do this so we can have a nice big screen here. So we have a nice big screen of the whole area. We have a nice big screen, and you're seeing the live rainbowing of the materials harvested from Argyle being deposited here right off the reclamation site at the bus terminal, fisheries area. And this happens multiple times per day with this vessel, the Ham 360. So that's where we are right now. That's what we're doing right now. And yes, people loving it. They're seeing what they're seeing. This is the amount of reclamation done so far. Remember, this was where the seawall was. That is the entrance of Tokyo. Buses came out, turned on the road here, and moved down. This was the end of it here, the wall there. And what we've had so far since the reclaiming, we've had this much reclamation done so far. We've had this much reclamation done so far, and we are going all the way out 130 meters out of reclamation for our new port here in Kingstown. And those individuals from Brooklyn, and I see Kojo and Tammy and everybody, Austin and everybody, loving what they're seeing. And I'm absolutely loving what I'm seeing. I'm happy with what is going on here. So beautiful. Yes, I've never had a shot from so close. So maybe I can take a shot from this close. Lovely. 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 So you're seeing what's going on here. And we are still here. Myself, Linsky, Bling, Marlon, here, just looking at development taking place right in front of our very eyes. Right in front of our very eyes. You'd be able to say, you witnessed it. You'd be able to say, you witnessed it. Taking some video as well. So you're getting to see that. But I'm taking video of the area. Multitasking. So we're going to end the program in a bit. But just giving you this last bit of the view. Lenski, how long does this process normally take? Okay, so according to Linsky, this process takes about 45 minutes. So this is going to happen for about 45 minutes. That's a lot of material. How much would you say each trip? How much material would you say each trip brings along with it? About 6,000. So 6,000 cubic meters is coming out right here now.
Yes.
Okay, okay, okay. Do you have to um give what's the word I want to use, um allowance for erosion when this is happening?
Well, once the material is finally placed, the contractor will put measures to protect from
Mhm.
the to protect from the you know removal of the
Uh-huh.
material, right?
Okay,
But the positive thing about this material, it is 2.9 times as dense as water.
okay,
So it sinks very quickly and maintains
okay.
its position. And barring any bad weather events, we do not anticipate under the normal circumstance to have a significant amount of removal.
Okay, okay,
Yeah, yeah.
okay. All right. Well, I tell you something, viewers. Those on the radio may have gone already, but those of us here on the live are getting this full view uh, taking place right in front of our eyes, right in front of our eyes. In full view, the rainbow of materials from the Ham 316 as part of the reclaiming of land here at Kingstown, Port Kingstown, for the construction of the new port. We're seeing it live. We're witnessing it. This is the first opportunity you've had to see it live. First time you're seeing it live. I don't know if you have another opportunity, but you're able to see it live this afternoon. And we really appreciate the fact that you stayed around with us. We got lucky. We got lucky. Uh, so that while we're having the program, manager said, "Oh look, there's a ship coming in," and we're able to get some of it, uh, right in front of our eyes. So we are playing up the landscape. Maybe you and I could go back and wrap up the program while Bling stays there. Let's do that now. Okay. Yes, sir. Hello, neighbor. Oh, he's from Latvia. Actually, my nephew who studied in Russia is married to a Latvian. So my nephew is also now Latvian.
Yeah?
Yes.
Oh, nice.
Yes. I should connect the two of you. Oh, he's from okay. Yes, I was in Azerbaijan. Yes. Where are we now? Sorry. Yes. All right. So Linsky, I think. Oh, sorry. I think we've had quite an extensive afternoon, and we thank you very much, Tammy. Leave me here alone. So, I'll come to find a helmet to fit my big head. That's all right.
Safety first.
You know.
Yes.
But you've been really helpful and accommodating, Linsky, and we want to thank you so much for accommodating us this afternoon.
That's for sure.
Um, any final words?
The work on the port modernization project continues smoothly, and we recognize the excitement of the public on one part, and we also recognize the concerns that the public may have. Uh, in the upcoming few days, we will be doing a piece of video information to show the technology which is on board the dredge vessel. So persons can see for themselves what happens on board, what happens at Argyle and coming around. So we should look forward to that. And until then, the work continues on. Onward to 2025. Fingers crossed we get it done in May, as we currently still are scheduled to be.
Excellent. And hopefully we have no adverse for the events that would
Yes.
undo any work and
Yes.
delay
Yes.
any work that we have done.
Yes.
Thank you so much,
Yes.
Linsky. I really appreciate you spending the afternoon with us for the last hour and a half,
Yes, sir.
giving us information. Many of the individuals on the live are commenting that the fungi used to be quite logical, simple, understandable,
Thanks.
and hopefully more individuals now are better aware and better informed of what is happening here at the port, better informed, more aware of what is happening out at Argyle, understand that from an environmental standpoint, the project, the activity of the project are not adverse or adversely impacting the environment, but rather things are being done in a sustainable way,
Yes.
environmentally and otherwise, to ensure that our economic development rather is done in a sustainable way. We are moving towards sustainable development, and that is what this government is about.
Yes.
And that includes this very significant, large, important project that is smooth. And you know something, Lenski, I must say, I must express some pride in the fact that the person running the project essentially is this youth man there. A youth man who go Brighton School, a youth man from St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And if anything, we should be Malan proud of that. There is swell in those moments. You know what I'm saying? It's not, and no disrespect to race, but it's no foreigner of a different skin texture who's walking around and running the project. It's this human name with Brighton School. I'm proud of you, Linsky. Thank you so much, and all the best going forward on the project. Anything at all I can do for you at this level, at Star, what have you, just let me know.
Yeah. Thank you, Sian. Good evening, listeners.
All right. And for those of us who are here, listeners, let me thank you so much for sticking around. We went over a few moments, but I'm sure you enjoyed the information that came, and even more so that you enjoyed the sights that you saw over there, and you continue to see of the rainbow and of the material. Thank you so much for being a part of this afternoon's program. I trust that you are better informed. And if you have any queries or questions, listen, there is an efficient, effective project management unit that is doing the work here on behalf of the Mission Grenadiers.
Just one thing to tell listeners: there's a port weather cam on Fort. If you log on to it, SVGPA, look for weather cam. You'll have a live view every time the boat comes in, wherever in the world you are.
Really?
You would see when it comes into Kingston.
Okay, so svgpa.com.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the SVG Port Authority, svgpa.com.
Yeah.
Go on the website, look for weathercam, and if you log on to that, anywhere in the world you are. So Gans and Kojo and Tammy and Darren and so on, all you guys who are wherever you are, you ain't gotta wait on me anymore to come and show you the rainbow. You can log on svgpa.com, look for weathercam, and you can follow this activity 24/7, wherever you are. Thank you so much again, all on behalf of myself and of Bling and myself here at the site, the port site. Let me thank you so much for holding the program down. And until tomorrow morning, God's willing, when I'm there with Morning Scoop, have yourself a fantastic evening. We're gone.